Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. Just wanted to talk a bit about military people bugging out. I recently did a video regarding police bugging out and whether or not they would, under what circumstances might they bug out and might they be justified in bugging out. And I thought I would do a follow-up in light of a video that I just watched by General S. Lee. I can't remember what it's entitled, but it was about essentially sort of what we've talked about many times before, and what General S. Lee has also talked about in his past videos before. I gotta find a better abbreviation for General S. Lee. That's a mouthful. GSL or something, maybe. Something like that. But anyway, so GSL was saying that, you know, the government's not going anywhere in the case of a WROL, and, you know, I definitely have entertained that perspective at some point, and I've entertained the other perspective at some point, and, you know, we can never really speak absolutely when we're talking about theoretical scenarios that are, you know, there could be 10,000 different types of scenarios. You know, it's just impossible to make any sort of blanket statements about anything. But essentially was saying that, you know, he felt that the government wasn't going to go anywhere, and there wouldn't be any power vacuums permitted because, of course, and, you know, I've said this before too, that, you know, why would the government, who are the government, I don't really like using the term government, but why would the powers that be, who are power hungry people as is, ever want to have a reset when they have so much to lose and nothing really to gain? But that said, I was sort of thinking about it, and I was thinking about, you know, on a human resource level, this whole military thing, you know. Now, depending on what the situation was, if it was a localized event, then, you know, martial law would probably be easy to implement. And by localized, I mean, you know, one part of the USA is affected, or a few parts, but not the whole grid. You know, it's not like a grid down situation per se. In that situation, they probably could maintain control. And they could maintain control because, you know, these military people, who I think number at around 2 million, and as I've commented before, the total police and security, private security in the United States is about another 1.5 million, brings you to about 3.5 million first responders and military. Now, all those people have families, okay? Some of the military people's families live on military bases. They're immediate nuclear families. That's not counting their parents, their friends, their extended families, etc. Now, a lot of these people are going to be faced with the dilemma in a case of a wide-scale WROL, and wide-scale calamity, I should say, which would lead to breakdown of the regulating institutions. They're going to have to make a choice whether or not they ditch and go AWOL, or stay and protect the quote-unquote greater good, or just fulfill their duties. Could be tyrannical duties, or it could be a genuine attempt at maintaining some level of rule of law. Whatever the case is, they're going to have to make a choice, and this is nothing to be underestimated. Many people, if there was like some sort of pandemic, and you're, and you know that your family somewhere is unsafe, and that systems are breaking down all around you, chances are that there's going to be a lot of people going AWOL. And in order to preserve what remains of the military, and to make sure that to discourage people from going AWOL, the military is probably going to have to do some excessive military policing of their own people, and perhaps even make examples of people who decide to do that, because there's going to be a lot of people bugging out. I think that when we talk about WROL and stuff, we underestimate the fact that anybody who's pointing a gun at you in your country is probably, only a couple degrees of separation away from you. So people are going to be pointing guns at their own families, and once it gets that close together, you're going to have problems. Allegiances are going to be tenuous at best. The other thing is this, the military couldn't even get Iraq under control. I couldn't imagine, with the amount of people who have weapons of all sorts. I mean, there's people who own miniguns in the United States. I didn't know that until recently, that they're actually legal. It's actually legal to own a minigun. However, only very few of them come to the market every year, and I think they're something to the effect of $100,000. But I mean, you got people out there with all sorts of crazy artillery, not artillery, but heavy machine guns, and God knows what else, homemade explosives and shit like that. Who, if you think that what they had in Iraq was bad, where there's very little camouflage, there's very little, to get in the way of operations there. Just imagine, like, the American landscape, as vast and as deep and detailed as it is. It would just be impossible for them to bring that under control without the full-on compliance of the local authorities, which, as I said, is going to be very challenging, because you're going to have a lot of people bugging out. Because as they're there, holding back the protesters or trying to get the looters under control, their homes are going to be being looted, and their families are going to be at risk. So most of them are just going to say, fuck this, I'm going home to protect my family. And you can't really hold that against the person. And then you're just going to have the bad apples, I think the problem with that situation is going to be that the good guys, the good cops, and the people who aren't sociopathic, they're going to want to go and protect their families, and the only ones that are going to remain are these, people who get into the role to work out their inferiority complexes and whatnot by exercising power over others. And so you're going to have a lot of the ones who remain aren't going to be the good ones, and that's just going to make the situation worse. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that would play out in the instance of a total grid down scenario. I just think there's too many factors. It's not just going to be the government's not going anywhere. They're going to try not to go anywhere. They're definitely going to try to preserve their power. The powers that be, the elites, want to. The only thing that's protecting the super wealthy in our society is the police. Most people, forget about that without police, and this is why they need crime, this is why we need not we, but this is why the powers that be need crime, because it's the only way to legitimate a police force or a military to protect them. And of course, you have the legitimate concerns about, global conflict and geopolitics and stuff like that, resource wars, and, you need a military to defend your country. But, if you look back at, who funds wars and this, that, whatever, and what wars are fought for, and, even that whole Iraq thing with the oil and stuff like that, I mean, it's pretty clear that, there's not a lot of people fighting for the good of man, if you know what I mean. Or whatever other sort of patriotic propaganda one wants to parrot. So there is a big conundrum that is faced by these military people who are called in to get the situation under control and bring forth martial law. Do you stay and secure some level of rule of law, or do you flee? Protect your family. Either way, you're sort of damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. I mean, there's going to be some people who recognize that, okay, if we all leave, then there's no hope for bringing back any rule of law. And my family's going to be screwed, and I'm going to be screwed. And then there's going to be those people who take the more impulsive approach that, no, I need to protect my family now. And I'm sure a lot of people who have access to that military equipment will probably take some of it, to use towards that end. Because it's not like there's enough military police to police that many people. There just isn't that many military men and reservists and all that. So let me know what you guys think about this. I think it's going to be a big issue. And I think it's going to be one of those things that if they can't get that under control, they can kiss, maintaining their power goodbye. I recognize full well that they don't want to create that power vacuum and let somebody else come in and take from them what they've worked so hard to get under control. But there might be some event which is out of their control. And with the weaponry they have nowadays, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they still could put up a pretty good fight against the populace with their, air support and, laser guns and drones and robots. God knows what else DARPA's working on. But, anyways, this video's dragging on, so tell me what you think. Thanks for watching, Canadian Prep Bro.